If the recent report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is to be believed, humanity has just over a decade to get carbon emissions under control before catastrophic climate change impact become unavoidable. The Republican Party generally ignores or denies that problem, but the Democratic Party claims to accept and understand it. It is odd. Then the Democrats do not have a plan to address climate change. Their last big plan, the American Clean Energy and Security Act, passed the House in 2009, but went to die in unceremonious death before reaching the Senate floor. Since there has been nothing to replace it. Plenty of Democratic politicians support policies that would reduce climate pollution, renewable energy, tax credits, fuel economy standards, and the like, but those policies do not add up to comprehensive solutions. Certainly, nothing like what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) suggests is necessary. Young activists who will be forced to live with the revenge of climate change find this upsetting, so they have proposed a plan of their own. It's called the Green New Deal (GND), a term purposefully reminiscent on Franklin Delano Roosevelt's original New Deal in the 1930s, and it is became the talk of the town. Here are the Google search of the past few months. And for this history, I talked to Wang and the political activists who are working on GND, and without expectations, they express surprise at the speed and intensity with which both media attention and activist energy have centered on it. There is a same among those involved that they have caught a tiger by tail. The GND push has thrust climate change into a national conversation, put House Democrats on notice, and created an intense and escalating bandwagon effect. Politicians, most recently in 2020, presidential aspiration Cory Booker advocates, most recently all Al Gore, wonks, and activists, everyone involved in green politics is talking about the GND. But the policy is only a part of picture. Just as striking are the politics which seems to have tapped into an enormous untapped demand for climate ambitions. When I think about social status of the GND, I am struck by an analogy. It is a bit like concentrated solar power. I am energy nerd. Shumi is a concentrated solar power plant. Large area of mirror reflect sunlight into a large single tower, heating the fluids inside in fluid transfer heat to water. The steam from the boiling fluid drives a turbine, and the turbine generate electrical power. The GND is the tower, and all of a sudden all the mirrors are allied focused on it. The heat is building on the water is rapidly reaching a boil. Meanwhile, its owner are reaching to build a turbine. There is an immense potential energy in GND, a concentration of social attention and intensity, but converting the heat to power to real result on the ground will involve a great deal of political and policy engineering, almost all of which lies ahead. The GND has great potential, but then American political history is long story of wasted potentials, of waves of progressive enthusiasm breaking on a rocky shores of Washington DC to no lasting effect. Whether the fate awaits the GND depends on many things, among them whether President Donald Trump, the culmination of the history of total Republicans, integrations and ugliness, the stretches over young activists' entire adult lives, has changed the political landscape enough that Democrats might leave behind their long defensive crouch and voice some ambitions. Before jumping in it is worth noting that number of great journalists have blazed the trail on the story already. See Peculiar, especially for the big picture, here Hannah Northey and people like that. To get a handle on the GND, let's take a spin through its history. The GND concept is not new. The first of the GND is a US-made trash to New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman, who called one in 2007 column and in his book Hot, Flat and Crowded as a kind of green globalism. Funny thing, politics, and Kaufman notes in the story on his history. None other than Barack Obama was taken by Friedman's idea and included a GND in 2008 platform. It can also be argued that Obama stimulus bill was proto-GND in itself. Around the same time, in 2007, British economist Richard Murphy began discussion in GND and found Green New Deal group, which funneled from ideas on Labour's party. The UN also took the idea, calling a global GND in 2009, but the Tories won the UK in 2009. So, but the capsule history of the term itself, the brand somewhat sells short the intellectual lineage. Many pieces of the GND has been worked on by many people over the years. The constitute idea, 100% clean energy, a just transition to a new better economy, massive public sector investment are not new. Talk of a blue-green alliance between labor and environmentalists built around public infrastructure investment and new jobs goes all the way back to 2000 presidential candidate Ralph Nader. Real work has been underway at least since 2006, when the Blue-Green Alliance was established. In AFL-CIO has its own big infrastructure plans. So the GND comes to Washington. After 2006, Raisam, the folks of worked on the Sanders campaign, started organizing called Brand New Congress with audience, some might say insane, goal of recruiting 400 fresh new faces to run for and take over Congress. Part of the shared platform was an ambition, World War II style mobilizing on climate change through not yet brand GND. That effort did not result in a congressional takeover, but it was not without fruits. But new Congress spun off the group called Justice Democrats that went on a recruit several winning candidates like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley. Among them was Alexandria Ocasio, the young burn who ran against incumbent centrist Democrat Joe Crowley in New York 14th District primary. The co-founder of Brand New Congress, Shaikat Shibri, became Ocasio-Cortez's campaign manager. So then came to first week of the orientation for new member Congress. So this will be a great time in Green New Deal history. Several things came together that week. Shortly prior, IPCC has released its latest report without the ominous news that humanity has just over a decade to begin rapidly reducing global carbon emissions if there is to be any hope of hitting the already inadequate international target of limiting global temperature rise to no more than 2 degrees Celsius. There was already enormous in another part, the Canada, Justin Trudeau, he's working really hard on it, and France, they are turning off the lights. Maybe you watching the BBC News, they're turning off all the lights. They think they can reduce the carbon emissions, maybe, who knows. Like Trump said about the wind energy process has caused cancer. This is all bullshit, I think. So they did not see any point of pursuing cooperation with Republicans, a strategy that has proven fruitless of decade, and they did not want climate policy tucked away in a committee that would not do anything but hold hearing and discuss how real global warming is. So this is the summary of Green New Deal. As a researcher, as a research educator, I support Green New Deal.